Welcome to a Friday edition of the Taste Talks. I'm Christine Duke, the Continuing Education Program Manager at Kendall College at National Louis University, and very excited to have Sruthi Swaminathan back with us today. And she is actually going to be demonstrating for us a farro and pearl onion salad with a lemon tahini dressing. So I see you're already like prepping and getting things going. So please let us know what is up and how to make this salad on our own.
Yeah, sure. So, hey guys, I'm still prepping as I was with Christine before, but yeah, what I'm going to be making today is a salad. So I might have made a couple other kinds of salad for these classes, but today's is a little bit different because I'm using farro instead of something like rice, which is what I usually use. And it's a grain. I wish I knew exactly how it's made and its composition and things like that, but I know it's good for you. I know it's high in fiber, and I know it introduces, at least for me, some much needed variety into the things that I eat. Because as a person who grew up kind of eating a lot of rice, I really enjoy rice. I will have it on a side of everything. So I'm always surprised when I go to restaurants and there's like a fish dish and it's just like fish on a bed of greens. And I'm like, right. So I'm always like looking for the other thing. So, and I feel like having that kind of carb helps bulk up the meal. Even better if it's like high in fiber, like farro is, a little bit better for you, still keeps you full. And we're going to do something fun with it today. And I figured since it's summer too, I feel like I at times don't really change up what I cook based on the season, but in some ways it's good, you know, when it's like super humid and hot out, like it's been here, it's just been humid for a couple weeks now, I feel like, and raining. I don't want to be turning on the oven all the time, although I am turning it on today, but only very briefly. But other than that, you know, I'm excited to make the salad. I have some family coming over this evening. I was telling Christine, and we're going to be having a bunch of like delicious Indian food. And I figure I will contribute to this, which is decidedly not an Indian dish, but something that people can get started with. So as I've been talking to you, what I've been actually doing is peeling these pearl onions, which actually, in my opinion, like don't really taste that much different than regular onions. They just seem like they've been kind of plucked, or they've been kind of harvested when they're a little bit smaller to make them a little bit more like bite size and a little bit easier to consume maybe. So what I'm gonna do here is as I'm gonna set these ingredients up, I'm gonna show them to you. Okay. So all I have here is I have some pearl onions. So this is about 6 ounces of them. I have some of the red ones and some of the white ones. I just picked this up at my regular grocery store. No specialty store was kind of needed. I also have some tomatoes. So these aren't like the big Roma tomatoes or the heirloom tomatoes. These are the little bite-sized kind of cherry snacking tomatoes. That's going to go in there. What else I have is I have some cucumber that I'm going to put in here. So the idea here is similar to other things that I've shown in my previous classes, where I want to get everything set up. I think I admitted once, I was like, I don't typically do this for cooking, but I find that when I do it for this class, it does make things a whole lot easier. So I really enjoy doing that. Okay. And then I'm also going to finish chopping up something else. I have some chives here. That's going to go on top of the salad at the very end. So I'm just going to chop some of these chives up. Here.
I already like how colorful everything is too. So your food is always has great color in it, and
yeah,
we eat with our eyes first. So it's nice to see that all the time.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, I really enjoy, even I'll admit, part of the reason I got both the red and the white onions is because I did want this look, you know, and we're not going to put these in there raw. You'll see what I'm going to do with these in just a second. And then here's some chives. nice like oniony smell, again, going along with my theme of adding multiple things in there that taste or from the same general family, but contribute a different form of that flavor. So I have some chives here. Oh, there's a recipe on the inside of this for some garlic shrimp with chives, which I'm sure would be absolutely delicious. I'm gonna give these just a quick rinse. And then I'm just gonna chop them up, kind of mince them like pretty small. It's just satisfying sound. Can you hear that?
We could just do a whole like ASMR video of you like
I know
up and doing that.
Yeah, I don't know if this happens to you, where I'll be like, maybe I'll start watching one of those, and then about 2 minutes in, it becomes too much. Like I can't, like my skin gets a little crawly, or I'm like, I need to do something else. Like I just feel kind of unsettled. It's like the opposite of the reaction you're supposed to have to that.
Yeah, so. sometimes like when people are like whispering over it, it's like the whispering that gives me the heebie-jeebies.
I know, it's a little, yeah, that's a good way to put it, like the heebie-jeebies. Oh man, as I'm cutting this up, this smells so good, and it's just chives straight out of the box. Haven't really done anything different. This knife, I have to say, has been going strong for about 12 years, 10 years, something like that. I got 2 of the identical ones. I think they were like on sale at Macy's, and I just get them sharpened every once in a while, and it's been fantastic. Okay, so here are the chives that are gonna go in the salad. And next, actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get started on the onions, because those can take a little bit of time to cook. And then we can prep the rest of the ingredients. We'll make our dressing, we'll plate everything, and we'll cook some of the asparagus that I'm gonna show you too in the meantime. But we'll get the onions started first. Okay, so let me move this here and turn you this way without dropping you, hopefully. Okay. You know, you guys can see this. Is that good, Christine? Is that, if I put it on this burner?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, great. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do, like I said, before we prep the rest of the things, is I'm gonna take this pan. This is like a 10-inch stainless steel pan. Put that on the stove, start heating it up. I don't want it too hot. I don't want it kind of smoking hot. I do want it to get pretty hot. In the meantime, I'm gonna cut just about maybe a little less than a tablespoon of butter. So maybe about like 2 teaspoons. Okay. And I'm just gonna plop this in here. So usually I'm always talking about like, don't put things in the pan unless it's hot, etc. But here it's just butter. And as the pan gets hot, you can see it's already kind of starting to slide around. Okay, and then once this warms up, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put these onions in. We don't need to cut them in half or anything. We're just gonna put them in just like that. Now I wish I had more onions. This doesn't look like a lot, but when I was peeling it, it felt like a lot. So this is gonna melt. Mostly coating it. I tried making scrambled eggs in this pan once, not good, because I was lazy to wash up the nonstick pan. So I was like, I'll just make it in this. And it's not a good idea. So I only use nonstick for eggs. Oops. Okay. So as that's warming up, I've got the onions ready. I'm also gonna get a couple other things ready that are gonna go in the pan along with the onions. So one thing that's gonna go in there is salt. I have that right here. Another thing that's gonna go in there is some sugar. Running a little bit low on sugar. I'm just gonna grab a little bit of that. And then once this warms up, we're gonna put everything in. I'll be right back.
Okay, we'll be here.
Okay.
See, now we have the ASMR video while we're listening.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm taking it off and just reducing the heat, because again, I don't want this to brown too much, just because the butter is gonna stay in there as I put the onions in. And then to keep the butter from burning, I'm just gonna put a little drizzle of oil in there as well. Just cools it down a little bit. Okay. And now we're going to put in the onions. Let's just try. I'm going to grab a little spoon. Oh, already smells good. It's just butter and onion. I'm going to season it with a little bit of salt. And I'm also going to put in some sugar because I'm going to try to caramelize these just a little bit.
So can you talk a little bit on what the difference in taste is between chives and green onion?
And the small onions, so the small onions basically taste like regular onions to me.
No, I
chives,
think yeah,
sorry,
I think it means green, like green onions, like scallions.
Oh, and green onions. Oh, that's a really good point. To me, the chives taste a little more lemony than the scallions. The scallions taste a little more, I feel like they're in between what an onion tastes like and what a chive tastes like. The chive just tastes a little lighter. It tastes a little more lemony. And maybe just because it is finer, the green parts in itself just feels more delicate. Whereas with the green onion, I like to add it not just for flavor, but also for some texture. You can cut it on the diagonal, cut it a little bit bigger, and it will give you that little bit of texture. But with chives, I'm mainly just adding it for that little like pop of lemon flavor every once in a while. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely like the way that you can portion the two of them and how
Totally, yeah.
you get the chives and that delicateness is nice.
Absolutely. Okay. Another thing we're going to add in here is a little bit of pepper. And now to kind of help these along, you almost want them to like, I'm not trying to crisp them up. You almost want them to cook through steaming a little bit. So I'm going to add in, mix this up, add in a little bit of water, and then we're going to cook them covered for about 15 minutes or so. And we'll check on them periodically to make sure nothing's burning, nothing's sticking too much. But this already smells good. I can imagine this being a great side dish. We're going to be adding this to the salad, but I can imagine this being a great side dish to, like if you're making steak or if you're making a roast chicken, this would be an excellent side. The heat is down a little. Don't want the oil to splatter too much. I'm going to pour in a little more water. Then turn up the heat a little bit. And I'm just going to cover this up and just leave it here for about 15 minutes. And since that's the thing that's going to take the longest, we will move over here. Sorry about that. We'll move over here and I will continue with the rest of the prep. Okay, so like I said, onions are going. I'm going to keep checking those every once in a while because I don't want them to burn. And we're going to prep the rest of the things. So we have our tomatoes here. We have cucumbers. I'm actually going to cut up a little bit more because I'm cooking for about, this is not all we're eating for dinner. We're going to have like a few things we're eating. I just want to have enough of a portion for more people. So I'm cooking for about, like 11 people maybe. So I just want to make sure we have enough. And I feel like salad's one of those things, especially if you have it before your meal versus in the middle of a meal. If I really like the salad, I'll like overdo it a little bit. And especially here because the salad has a grain and it's not just the greens. I don't want that to happen. Plus we're putting all these vegetables in there. It could get you kind of full, but this is a kind of salad that tastes great even at room temperature. In fact, I wouldn't serve this salad super, super warm. I would serve it at room temperature. So even if you need to kind of store it overnight and eat it the next day, this is one that actually keeps well because the bulk of it is not greens. you don't have to worry about that. Okay, just cutting up some more of these cucumbers. And then once I do this, we're gonna get started with our next thing, which is going to be popping the asparagus in the oven. I am trying to, and you can tell I'm like actively trying to eat more vegetables because I've been like using this app where I, track what I eat. And in the beginning, I just didn't want to track it because it was like embarrassing to go back and look at it later. It'd be like chips, 2 bags, breakfast, because you have to like put what meal you ate it for. And then it's like mid-afternoon snack, Reese's peanut butter puffs. Yeah, and then you go back and look at that and you're like, oh, you're not getting kind of the nutritional value that you should. So I'm really trying to do that. And I mean, summer is a great time to stock up on these kind of veggies. And like I said, this is a salad. So you can still add all of these things, hopefully not have it be too bulky. And hopefully it still tastes good. Let's see. All right. Now I'm going to prep the asparagus. So let me show you that really quick. So while the onions are still going, what I've done here is I've just kind of laid out these asparagus. This is about like 1.5 pounds, 1.75 pounds of asparagus. And they're the more thin kinds. So you know how you can get the very thick asparagus and you get the thin ones. These are slightly thinner. And all I've done is I've drizzled them with a little bit of olive oil, salt, and pepper, nothing else. And the reason for that is because, yes, you could season these like to the nines. I've made these asparagus with like a bunch of Indian masalas in it, with like Mexican seasonings. I've made it with Asian seasonings, like Japanese, like spices. I've made them that way. But in this case, you don't really need to do that because you'll see when we make the dressing actually has a lot of flavor that's that you want to be able to taste and that complements all of the things that we're adding in here really nicely. So let me show this to you. I just kind of mix these up and then I'm just going to pop them in the oven. The reason I didn't kind of pop these in all the way at the beginning is because I'm only going to have them in there for like 12 minutes or so. I don't need them in there the whole time. I have my oven preset to 425 right now. And I'm just going to show you these. So just all I did is toss them. I'm just going to spread them out so they're kind of not overlapping so that they don't steam too much. And these aren't going to come out like crispy like chips. You just want them to be a little bit tender. And as you roast them, they also get rid of some of that bitter flavor that asparagus can have. If you, I don't know, do people eat asparagus raw? I've never done it. But
really. I mean, if it's gonna be on like a charcuterie or a crudité or something like that, it's usually bland.
Yeah.
So at least it like gives it, a little bit more tenderness because they can be really woody sometimes too.
Exactly. And I've seen a bunch of videos on like how you're supposed to determine where you break off the asparagus. And some of them feel very wasteful to me. It seems like you're breaking off like half of the stem. And I don't like picking one up. So I just kind of bunched them all up and I was like, this is good. And I just cut them all at once. If towards the bottom we get to any tough spots, we'll deal with it at the time. We'll like take it out or we won't eat it. But I still don't know what the definitive way is to, definitive amount is that you're supposed to kind of chop off the asparagus before eating.
I think it really like varies on your asparagus thickness as well.
Okay.
So it's like pencil asparagus, it's going to be much easier where you've got like the hardy asparagus where there's definitely going to be more of that toughness at the bottom.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So now let's like recap what we've done, right? I've chopped up a couple things for the salad. I've chopped up the cucumber. I've chopped up the tomato, the cherry tomatoes, or I think these were grape tomatoes, actually. They're like petite snacking grape tomatoes. We chopped up the chives. We have our onions going, and we also have our asparagus in the oven. So yes, this seems like this is very different than my like one pot, dump everything in and go. But also like, I don't want to cook the asparagus in the saucepan. I could probably add it in towards the end of cooking for that, but I feel like it would need a little more water to steam and get tender. I'm also not going to be like cooking my cucumber and tomatoes. It's a salad. I want those things to remain fresh. So this is one of those things where you do make them separately and then you put them together at the end. How long for the asparagus? So I'm going to leave the asparagus in. It's at 425 for about like 12 to 14 minutes or so. So I kept an eye on the time. It has another like 10 minutes or so. We'll take it out and check it. And asparagus is one of those things, maybe again, because it's like long and it's slender, it keeps cooking a little bit after I take it out of the oven. I don't want them to completely be these like super soft. By the time I take them out, I do want them to have a little bit of a bite. So I've roasted them at like 450 before for about 20 minutes and they've come out just like crispy when I wanted them that way, but I just don't want them that way right now. Okay, quick check on the onions. Let's see how they're doing. Okay, smelling even better. You can see some of the water's gone. Probably just absorbing the onions. Smelling delicious. All these little bits you see here, you guys see these like small bits? I'll show you close up. See like things like that. That's like the inside of the onions kind of coming out. Like they're all miniature, so they're coming out in layers. Feels nice and gooey. Feels nice and gooey. I mean, it does. It looks like the butter is really doing its job is what I mean. Okay, we're gonna cover it back up. Actually, you know what I might do? I might add a little bit more water. Just so that, couple reasons. One, I don't want it to burn. Two, I'm noticing all this stuff at the bottom. I believe it's called, is it called frond? Is it called the caramelized stuff at the bottom?
Oh my gosh, I don't know that term.
Oh yeah, I think it's called something like that, where it's a little bit stuck at the bottom and you want to deglaze it. And I'm just going to add a little more water because it's going to prevent from burning. It's going to pick up the little bits at the bottom, which are really the flavor bits from the onion and butter and sugar and salt. And it's also going to help it cook a little bit more. So that's going to keep going. So I realized that one thing I have not brought up is the other half of this recipe, which is a farro and pearl onion recipe. So I used my very handy, I think I've talked about this before, microwave rice cooker for farro. Okay, so you can make it on the stove. You could like put it in a saucepan. 1 to 2.5 is the ratio. So like one portion farro to 2.5 portions of water. Bring it to a boil and then simmer it and cook it for 20 minutes. And I was like, I'm not going to remember all that. So I just reached for my rice cooker, which has been with me since college, put it in the microwave, and let's try it just to see. Oh, it's cooked perfectly. It has a little bit of bite like you want, has that nice nutty flavor, and it's cooked all the way through. But like I said, this is a dish that's really nice when it's served at room temperature, maybe even a little bit cool. So the fact that I just made this now, I probably wouldn't want to serve this like right now. You can see there's like steam coming from it. See that? Okay. So I'm just going to let this kind of rest for a while. So just know that I haven't forgotten about the farro part of it. I just used my rice cooker and got it out of the way earlier. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and make the dressing. So I'm going to grab a few ingredients for the dressing. So this is a tahini lemon dressing. Tahini is a paste made out of like ground sesame seeds. It's thick, it's nutty, it's kind of coats your tongue as you're eating it. And so I really love to be able to cut that with some acid and cut it with something bright and something fresh. And lemon juice is the perfect thing to do with it. I've used tahini like when I made falafel or my falafel hash. When I made little pockets with it, I put the falafel in there and then I just drizzled it with tahini. Tahini is also great to use as like a sandwich spread sometimes, again with the squeeze of lemon. and maybe even some minced parsley in there. It's really good to kind of add that fresh and acidic element to tahini to kind of make sure that it doesn't overpower and that it accentuates the dish rather than feels like you're just eating like spoonfuls of tahini, which you wouldn't want to do. All right, so let me go grab some of the ingredients we're going to be using. I'll show them to you as I take them out. Okay, so I have a fresh lemon right here. I have some tahini, it's brand new, so I still have to open it. We are also going to mince some garlic to put in it. Yep, we're gonna put some garlic in there. We're gonna put in some salt. And we're also gonna put in a little bit of honey. So I've made this with like maple syrup before, and I feel like the sweetness goes really well in this salad because everything else, like the onions are gonna have a little bit of sweetness in them. As they caramelize, we've added some sugar in there. So just to kind of bring in a hint of sweetness from somewhere else, we're going to be adding a little bit of honey. And then we're also gonna be adding one of my favorite things, red pepper flakes, because I want some sweetness, I want some heat, I want some richness, I want some acidity. So there we go, we're gonna add that. Now I'm just gonna grab a bowl to actually make the dressing in. This little container that my mom gave me. All right, first thing we'll do is we're gonna cut up the lemon. So with lemons, the juice brings that kind of acidity. If you want more of the perfume of the lemon or like the scent of the lemon, the zest really has that. So in this case, I think what I'm gonna do is add some of the juice and also add in some of the zest to give a little boost of lemony flavor. And again, because a lot of the things we're doing involve like cooking by heat. So, you know, they involve the stove and the oven and these bold spices and the butter, etc. This will be a chance to brighten all of that up a little bit. A little bit of water for this in the meantime. Well, let me show you this. You can see it's cool. Caramelized a little bit. I got to figure out a better way to do this, Christine, because I keep dropping my phone.
You keep dropping us on our heads.
I know. Hey, this is why I get I got one of those like ultra strong cases for my phone. So here we go. This is some of the sugar. I know it looks like it's burnt. It's not. It doesn't smell like it's burnt. It's just getting nice and browned. And ultimately, we're not going to be adding all of this water from in here to it. We're just going to be taking in the actual onions. Okay. And now I'm just going to have it on a lower heat and let some of that water evaporate. And then we're going to take the onions out because they're looking like they're pretty much done. Okay. And now let me try to do this without dropping. I'm going to take you back here.
Can you use this liquid for something else or you just throw it?
I bet you could if you wanted to. You could. I haven't really thought about that. I usually like throwing it. And because what'll happen is by the time I'm done with it, most of it will evaporate. Sometimes what'll happen is I've made these onions and then if I'm serving them with like chicken or something like that, especially if I've cooked both in the same pan. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll sear the chicken on something. And then after I sear it, I'll then cook the onions in there. So all the little bits from the chicken and the onion are all blended together. And there you're actually getting more of a robust flavor from it. So I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how this actually tastes at the end. And we can decide whether to add it or not. But my guess is there's not going to be too much of this liquid left over at the end. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and make the dressing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up some lemon. Oops, some lemon. And just do this. So one thing I did there is it looks like I cut right through the seed, which is going to be really bitter. And I definitely do not want the seeds. You could see I cut like right through that seed. I'm going to take that out. I don't really want seeds in this dressing I want it to be tart. I want it to be sour. I do not want it to be bitter. So just taking out some of the seeds that I can see. Before I squeeze it, I have this little like zester here. And I'm just going to put some lemon zest into this container, just straight in. I used to do this where I would do it on a separate surface and then try to move it over. But then I found it's just very hard to pick up lemon zest, and I'm losing a lot of perfume just on the tray itself. So see, as I'm zesting it, I'm just kind of turning it to check that I'm not getting into the white part of it. Not too much. And I mean, it'll be interesting to see what this is like with the lemon zest in there. Since previously I haven't added zest to it, I've just added the juice. So more of a nice lemony flavor. And lemon zest is something, I mean, you look at this and you're like, that's not that much, right? But you'll really, really taste it. I'm not worried about overdoing it just yet because we are adding the tahini, and I know the richness of the tahini and that it can kind of withstand a little more of the lemon flavor. And that smells so good. Okay. I think I'm going to start with that a little bit more. And then if I want a little more later on, I can add that in. So this is about half a lemon, and we're getting the zest from, I mean, that's crazy. Look at this. This is the zest of half a lemon. Look at how little that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But this smells like I could just leave this out in my kitchen and my whole kitchen would smell like this within minutes. Okay, almost done. And I'll show this to you when I'm done. I really try, when I get towards the end of this, I try to get every last piece, which is of course impossible. But I'll show you how much of it I did. Okay, do you see that? So little chunks of it here and there. On one hand, I'm like, I don't want to waste it. On the other hand, I'm like, I don't want to get the white parts in and make it bitter. Okay, we're going to call that good. And always check the bottom of the zester. You see all these little bits, they're just really fine. And there's a lot of flavor in those. So I'm just going to put that back in too. Okay. We have the lemon zest. We have some lemon juice that I'm going to squeeze in there. So I have one of those lemon juicers, or not juicer. It's the thing that you squeeze. Mm-hmm. It comes out. I feel like it's a little bit wasteful sometimes because even after I use that, there's a ton of juice left in there. And I always have to use my hand after it too to squeeze it out.
It's a good workout too.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Just for my
grip strength.
Yes, absolutely. But I don't know, maybe it does a better job than me. I'm not, because it's still going. And I always look at this and I'm like, is there more juice? There's always more juice.
Yeah, I feel like there's always more juice myself too.
Right? Then I don't know. I don't want to get too much of that pulp in there because that's going to make it really sour. I don't know what you guys think about that. That's not the most satisfying sound, but okay, we're going to call.
Not like when you're chopping chives.
No, not the same thing. Okay. And now I'm going to use the same grater that I have here, and I'm going to grate this garlic in here. So it's rare that I use raw garlic in things. And when I do use raw garlic, I like to just grate it so that I'm not biting into kind of chunks of the garlic as I go and having it kind of ruin my tasting experience. But also I find that when it's in there with lemon, you know, when you make ceviche and then the acid kind of cures the fish a little bit and it just kind of makes it taste not, I don't want to say not quite like fish, because if fish tastes fishy, you probably shouldn't be eating it. But it just kind of mellows out the flavor a little bit. It does the same thing for the garlic, you know, so eating garlic or getting a piece of garlic in your mouth that's been soaking in an acid for a little while is going to taste very different because it's like a pickle. It's almost like when you pickle things and you put them in vinegar, It's a different kind of acid, but this is like citric acid in this case. But the garlic is going to taste a little bit different. Okay. And you guys are getting to see my like full prep that I that I usually have them like in little bowls. We're getting to see all of it here. Okay. Okay. Here we go. You have the garlic, we have the lemon zest, we have the lemon juice, and we're going to add a little bit of red pepper flakes. I like my stuff a little spicier, so I'm of course going to not use the little side. I'm going to open up the bigger side. You can adjust this taste. I'll always start with this, and then I'll change it up in a little bit. Okay, and now we're going to open. So you can see this is an actual new jar of tahini. It's not even open yet. Okay. Comes like sealed like that. You can see a lot of the oils kind of at the top here. So you're going to want to stir it well so that the bits you're adding are not just the oil and you're adding in the actual paste at the bottom. So you can see that. It's kind of like almond butter, you know, when you take it out and it's just oils at the top. I say almond butter and not peanut butter because Zane, my son's allergic to peanut butter or to peanuts. So we don't have any peanut butter in the home. And the almond butter we have, he doesn't like, so our dog eats it. Okay. Okay, so you really want to get in there and like, you know how it says like shake well before use? Here you really have to stir it well or you're not going to get kind of the thicker bits at the bottom. Okay, see that? I got in the mix of it, but the thicker parts are still stuck on the spoon. So that's kind of the consistency of tahini. Stirring it a little more. And then we're going to just add in the tahini. I'll probably be adding in a little more lemon juice as well. And I tend to overdo it when I make my dressings because as I'm making it, I'm like, this is so exciting. This is going to taste so good. And then there's way too much dressing for the salad. And then like, unlike spreads and stuff, you can't really add salad dressing to sandwiches, you know? So then I'm like thinking of creative ways to use it. Sometimes I'll just like make, if I buy fresh, I have never made fresh, well, it's not true. I think I've made fresh pasta like once at a cooking class. But if I ever go buy fresh pasta somewhere, sometimes depending on the type of salad dressing, I'll pour that over. Okay, so you can see that pretty thick still. Right, so I put the tahini in, it has the lemon zest, it has lemon juice, it has garlic, and it has red pepper flakes. Add a little bit of salt. And then I'm actually going to put in the remainder of this lemon juice. Take the seeds out again. There. Even more of this. And I might add a little bit of good olive oil in later to thin it out, although I'm not going to add too much oil again because the tahini already has some oil in there. Okay. Yeah, so you can tell it's like already thinned out a little bit. You guys see that?
Yep.
Now mixing it up. Sometimes I feel, I know you can use a whisk and stuff. This is a little bit thick to use a whisk with so far. But once I add in some olive oil and thin it out, you'll see that oh, that lemon smells delicious. A couple more things to add. I'm going to add the little bit of honey that I mentioned, which is not going to thin it out, but that's going to come with a little bit of the oil that we'll add. Okay, and then let's add in our olive oil. Okay, once I mix all of this up, I'll taste it. And this might be a little different too, just because, you know, when you have salads that are mainly greens and you want like a more watery, pretty watery dressing to go with it. Sorry, go ahead, Christine. Did you say something?
I said,
Yes, I will send the recipe.
Yeah, once I have the recipe, I will send it out to you guys in the next email.
Yep. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to taste a little bit this. Oh, that tastes great. Nice and nutty, nice and lemony. The salt seems okay. It does need to be thinned out a little bit, so I'll probably just right before I'm ready to serve, put in a little more of that. Because you can see right now, it looks a little bit more like a paste. And when it's like that, especially when you're eating it with something like rice, you'll see that this actually melts into the farro when we mix it up. I'm going to set this aside for a little bit. We are going to grab our onions, which are in here. I'm just going to put this in. Okay, so you have your nice caramelized onions right here. And they look like so little. I swear it felt like there were so many of them. I was debating just using like the 2 whole bags, but I was like, man, it just looks like there's too many, and I didn't, and now I regret it. Because I could just eat these. I could just snack on these right now. Okay, so now that we have all of our pieces, I'm going to kind of assemble our salad and show you what it looks like when everything's in there. Let's check. I'm just turning off the heat on the asparagus, which is in there. And then I'll pop it out at the last minute. We'll chop it up into little pieces and we'll put it in the salad. So let's go ahead and assemble the rest of our salad in the meantime. Okay. So I'm gonna use this bowl. It's like my one large salad bowl that I own that we'll use. Okay. First thing I'm going to put in there is the farro. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to like set all of this up, leave it out for a little bit. I don't like putting hot things in the fridge. I feel like it messes up like the fridge dynamics and how it cools everything else. And I'm just going to leave it out for a little bit, and then I'm going to put it in the fridge for a little bit to even chill it. Because I know we eat dinner pretty late. Like I know some people will eat dinner at 5:36, 6:30. We eat at like 8:39 sometimes. So I have some time for this stuff to chill. So let me show you how I would put all of this together. Okay. All right. So first thing, I'm going to put in the farro. This is the cooked farro. You can tell that it is still hot. Just going to put all of it in. And I already tasted it. It feels like it's the right amount of kind of doneness. Few things I'm going to put in here. We have these tomatoes that I'm going to put in. Oops. I love these tomatoes. So I actually have a lot, but if you don't like these kind of tomatoes, if you'd rather use, you know, pre-roasted bell peppers, you could do that. Actually, I'll start with that. Okay. Then we're going to add our cucumber. Let's see, go like that. Add our cucumber. Side. And then we're gonna add our onions. You know what? I'm serious. I might actually, after we're done here,
Make some
up.
more onions.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna make another batch of these because I don't think these are gonna last until dinner. Yeah. Okay. See the onions in here? Right there.
It looks like the bibimbap.
It looks like bibimbap. It does, doesn't it? Yeah, just with slightly different ingredients. You're right, Asaf. It's just a little bit different. All right. And now we have this space here that we're going to put the asparagus in. So let me grab the asparagus out of the oven and I will add that. Ooh, here's the asparagus straight out of the oven.
Yum.
Little bit browned, olive oily, got even skinnier than before. And I'm just going to chop up a few now because usually I like them to rest. I just don't want to be handling them while ever. And it looks like they got a little crispier than I thought, which in this case is going to end up being a happy accident because I was just thinking about how I could use a little bit more crunch in this salad with the tomatoes being soft, with these being kind of the onions being a little bit soft. The cucumbers have a crunch, but it's a different kind of crunch. But it'll be nice to kind of, and then we have the creaminess from the dressing, and then the asparagus will be a little bit crispy to just add it. So let me grab another, grab this. See that? Okay. Let's grab a few of the asparagus. Oh man, I might have, it's just, why does food reduce? Why? There's like, I saw these and I was like, maybe I should just make half of these asparagus. And I made the whole thing. I still don't know if this is gonna last. Okay, so here's the asparagus. I'm just gonna cut them like kind of into pieces like that. Oh, yep. Definitely crispy. They'll have that greens flavor, feel a little bit like chips. Not mad. Okay. And then, you see that? I'm just like adding it to this corner right here. So let's go ahead and do that to the rest of the asparagus. And I don't think I've eaten this many vegetables in one meal in a long time. But none of these are from the farmer's market. I remember last time when I was here, I said most of the things I was making were directly from the farmer's market. Sadly, not the case here. I'm gonna let this cool a little bit, guys, so they just burned my finger a little trying to do this. But in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little dollop of this. Supposed to be a dressing, turned out to be a paste. Good for us. I'm just gonna put it in the center. Show this to you. You see that?
Yeah.
Right in the center. Again, not mixing it in right away. People can kind of mix it as they serve themselves. That's crazy. This does look like bibimbap, and this has like almost none of the same ingredients as that.
Would you add water to it to make it more liquidy?
Yeah, I don't know if you add water to dressing. I think usually you do it with like a combination of lemon juice. So that's something I might still do is like add lemon, make a little like, what do you call it? Like a little well in here, add a little lemon juice and mix it up to thin it out. But right now it ended up being a paste and I'm just gonna roll with it. I'm gonna, cause you know, it's gonna melt into all of the other things. It's hot now when I'm adding it here. So I'm actually just gonna try it this way and see how it goes. And then when I send out the recipe, I'll give you options for both like the proportions if you want it to be more thick like this versus the proportions if you want to make it more thinned out like a traditional dressing. I'm like trying more of these asparagus.
Cool. I like to have those options.
Yeah, I've started putting in options for stuff just because like people work differently. They have different things. Sometimes, like I did a cooking class for this like company team event a few months ago. And one of the people who joined, he didn't have a lot of the ingredients that we were cooking with. And so on the fly, I was like, do you have peanut butter? Do you have Worcestershire sauce? Can you combine those to kind of make this kind of a paste? So we went with that. Okay. Last thing I'm gonna do, chop up these asparagus, although I really just want to eat them like as they are. I'm not gonna lie. These are delicious. And then I'm gonna make more onions immediately after this. So I'm just chopping them. I'll put them in and show them to you. Oh, here's all of them chopped up. And then here is everything. I'm just going to use this. Added to the bowl. Okay. Move this aside so it's kind of separated. And that looks kind of cool. It looks cool with like the brown and green of the asparagus, the white and purple and brown of the onion, the red of the tomato, and then this dark and light green of that, and this kind of brown creamy thing here. So that is it. What I'm going to do is when I actually chill it and get a chance to like mix everything together and toss it, I'm going to take a photo of it and I'm going to send it to you guys because right now I'm just waiting for it to cool.
Yeah, and I'll send that with the recipe so you guys can see
Perfect.
how it was served. So
let me show this to you one last time. So you can see it. Okay, you know when you can see it. There it is. And that is your farro salad, remembering with the farros all underneath, with pearl onions, but it also has cucumbers, a tahini lemon like paste dressing, I guess, tomatoes, and roasted asparagus.
yum.
All right.
Well, thank you, Sruthi.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. And I love seeing all these different vegetables and everything that we all, I'm sure, could be using more of in our diets lately. So Asaf approves over there.
Yay.
Yeah, and I think that's about it for any questions at all. I don't think so. We will be getting the recipe out. So I will be sending that out to folks. And yeah, I think that's about it for today. Anything else you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
That's it. Thank you for kind of putting up with me, like prepping as I go. I got kind of
no worries. We had
so I had to kind of prep
moments, hearing chives being chopped and
yeah. I mean, I usually try to like have the dishwasher closed and have the counter clean, and there was just no time for that today. But hopefully, this still tastes good and it'll make it all worth it.
Of course. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a fantastic weekend.
You too. Take care.
We will see you guys next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everybody.